Good morning. Welcome on this beautiful Sunday in these terribly warm days of summer. I'm Martha Sincula, your service leader for today, and I welcome you to the Umpqua Unitarian Universalist Congregation. Our speaker today this week is Reverend Dennis Reynolds, and he will be available for our after-sermon Zoom with check-in beginning at about 11:15 and discussion beginning at 11:30. Email invitations with the links to the meeting are sent out between Friday and Sunday mornings, so take a look in your inbox for that. It is the same number that we've had before if you are saving it. If you have not yet used Zoom, Google the Zoom free video conferencing tool and download the free app. You can do this on your phone, your tablet, or your computer. Follow the prompts and there you can join us. Otherwise, these discussions are also recorded so that you can view them anytime on YouTube, just like our services. And I must admit, I have been spending a lot of afternoons reviewing and seeing again the services, and it's wonderful to be able to do that. Links to all these services are in our weekly UmQuest newsletter, where you can click on the links to get to the services. We thank Michael Wheeler and Lucy Swangham for their work on producing these videos of our services each week. As you know, it's really important that we stay connected with one another during this physical separation. And if you have a chance, please call and check in with members of our congregation that you might not have talked to for a while. And if you know how to find us on YouTube, help others who might find it difficult to do so, so as many of us as possible can participate in our services. And of course, since you're using YouTube to view this service, please click on the subscribe bar or link. This will make it much easier to find us each week, actually anytime.
The words for our chalice lighting this morning are from the late Congressman John Lewis. You are a light. You are the light. Never let anyone, any person, or any force dampen, dim, or diminish your light. Release the need to hate, to harbor division and the enticement of revenge. Release all bitterness. Hold only love, only peace in your heart, knowing that the battle of good to overcome evil is already won. I invite you now into a time of silence and contemplation. Let's begin first with just some silent breathing together, to be present together, to reflect on Lewis's heartfelt words as we breathe in some peace and breathe out love. Just breathing in and breathing out together. Take a deep cleansing breath in, cleansing breath out. And now you're invited to listen to a recording of a song, Glenn Thomas Rideout's rendition of a spiritual from the Sea Islands off the coast of Georgia.
Yonder come days are breaking. Yonder come day, oh my soul, my soul. Yonder come days are breaking. Sun is rising in my soul. Yonder come days are breaking. Yonder come day, oh my soul. Yonder come days are breaking. Sun is rising in my yonder come day, days are breaking. Yonder come day, oh my soul. Yonder come a day, days are breaking. The sun is rising in my soul. Yonder come day, days are breaking. Yonder come day, oh my soul. Yonder come day, days are breaking. Sun is rising in my soul. Yonder come day, days are breaking. Yonder come day, oh my soul. Yonder come day, days are breaking. The sun is rising in my soul. Yonder come day, days are breaking. Yonder come day, oh my soul. Yonder come day, days are breaking. Sun is rising in my soul. Sun is rising in my soul. Sun is rising in my soul. Sun is rising. Sun is rising in my soul. Sun is rising. Sun is rising in my soul. Sun is the sun is the sun is sun is the sun is rising in my soul.
Our reading today is from the poet Langston Hughes. Let America be America again.
Let America be America again. Let it be the dream it used to be. Let it be the pioneer on the plain, seeking a home where he himself is free.
America never was America to me.
Let America be the dream that dreamers dreamed. Let it be that great, strong land of love, where never kings connive nor tyrants scheme, that any man be crushed by the one above.
It never was America to me.
Oh, let my land be the land where liberty is crowned with no false patriotic wealth, but opportunity is real and life is free. Equality is in the air we breathe.
There's never been equality for me, nor freedom in this homeland of the free.
Say, who are you that mumbles in the dark? And who are you that draws your veil across the stars?
I am the poor white, fooled and pushed apart. I am the Negro bearing slavery's scars. I'm the red man driven from the land. I am the immigrant clutching the hope I seek and finding the same old stupid plan of dog eat dog, of mighty crush the weak.
I am the young woman full of strength and hope, tangled in that ancient endless chain of profit, power, gain, of grab of the land, of grab the gold, of grab the ways of satisfying need, of work the men, of take the pay, of owing everything for one's own greed.
I am the farmer, bondsman to the soil. I am the worker sold to the machine. I am the Negro servant to you all. I am the people, humble, hungry, mean, hungry. Yet today, despite the dream, beaten, yet today, oh pioneers.
I am the one who never got ahead, the poorest worker, bartered through the years, yet I'm the one who dreamt our basic dream.
In the old world, while still a serf of kings, who dreamt a dream so strong, so brave, so true, that even yet its mighty daring sings in every brick and stone, in every furrow turned, that's made America the land it has become.
Oh, I'm the one who sailed those early seas in search of what I meant to be my home. For I'm the one who left dark Ireland's shore and Poland's plain and England's grassy lea, and torn from black Africa's strand I came to build a homeland of the free.
The free? Who says the free? Not me. Surely not me. The millions on relief today, the millions shot down when we strike, the millions who have nothing for our pay.
For all the dreams we've dreamed, and all the songs we've sung, and all the hopes we've held, and all the flags we've hung.
The millions who have nothing for our pay, except the dream that's almost dead today.
Oh, let America be America again, the land that never has been yet, and yet must be, the land where everyone is free.
The land that's mine, the poor man's, Indian, Negro, me, who made America, whose sweat and blood, whose faith and pain, whose hand at the foundry, whose plow in the rain must bring back our mighty dream again.
Sure, call me an ugly name you choose. The steel of freedom does not stain. From those who live like leeches on the people's lives, we must take back our land again. America.
Oh, yes.
I say it plain.
America never was America to me.
And yet I swear this oath, America will be.
Out of the rack and ruin of our gangster death, the rape and rot of graft and stealth and lies.
We, the people, must redeem the land, the mines, the plants, the rivers, the mountains, and the endless plain.
All that stretch of these great green states.
and make America again. Our speaker today, Dennis Reynolds, came to the ministry after a 30-year career as a preschool teacher and an administrator at the University of Oregon. He has since retired to Eugene after serving churches in Oregon and Washington State and as a hospital chaplain. He has been an activist locally and globally. He believes the most powerful sermons are often those written with a religious text in one hand and a current news source in the other. He enjoys lifelong learning and the practice of crafting service. Now, I'd like to introduce Reverend Dennis. As you know, he's visited our congregation several times, and we always enjoy his wisdom and his wit and his ability to share his authentic self with us. Dennis?
The sermon I want to share this morning I chose to title, Different Stories, Different Voices. Voice number 1, John Lewis. Congressman John L. Lewis was, before his death this past month, referred to as the conscience of the Congress because he never wavered from his commitment to making a more inclusive and just America for all. My friend in Congress, Suzanne Bonamici, who serves West Portland in Washington, D.C., and who was long ago, when she was in law school, my roommate, describes the time when she joined a sit-in that Lewis had organized in the halls of Congress as one of her proudest moments. That June 2016 action was an unfortunately unsuccessful effort to get a House vote on gun control legislation in the wake of the infamous mass shooting at the Pulse nightclub in Orlando, Florida. It was certainly not Lewis's first time to speak up or to sit down for justice. It's reported that as a young boy, this son of a sharecropper used to preach to the family's chicken. And though we do not know what he said to them, I suspect it was some version of how the young Lewis thought the world should be. Lewis became a civil rights activist in his teen years, seeking out the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and asking how he might be involved in the civil rights movement. King called him the boy from Troy, for his hometown of Troy, Alabama. In time, Lewis became a trusted lieutenant in the civil rights movement, rising in leadership to the campaign for voting rights in Selma, Alabama. Lewis was amongst those who were brutally attacked by Alabama state troopers on the Edmund Pettus Bridge there in Selma on March 7, 1965, a day that came to be known as Bloody Sunday. He was beaten severely and hospitalized with a concussion. This was not the only time he risked his safety and freedom and suffered blows from would-be oppressors. For Lewis was one of the original Freedom Riders who rode interstate buses through the segregated and often dangerous South. Through years of struggle, he was beaten numerous times and arrested some 40 times. He reports that that number was before he entered Congress. After his election, he engaged in 5 more acts of civil disobedience. His desire to help create change by whatever nonviolent means necessary motivated him to move into elective office and eventually to service in the United States Congress. He advised us all, while walking on that same Edmund Pettus Bridge in March of this year, to get in good trouble, necessary trouble, and redeem the soul of America. Good Trouble is the title of a documentary on Lewis, now available on Amazon. I recommend it. Lewis said, when you see something that's not right, that's not fair, that's not just, you have to speak up. You have to say something. You have to do something. His motto, get in good trouble, should apply in all aspects of our lives. Lewis epitomized it and encouraged us all to not be silent. Get in trouble. Get in good trouble. He was adamant about supporting free speech, but he was also adamant about condemning hate speech. I believe in freedom of speech, but I also believe that we have an obligation to condemn speech that is racist, bigoted, anti-Semitic, or hateful. The civil rights movement of the 1960s, of which he was such an integral part, was based on faith. Sometimes America forgets that Dr. King was also Reverend King. Many Unitarian Universalists and other white allies in the civil rights movement of the 1960s and in our times see such involvement as an extension of our faith. Lewis said, "We saw ourselves doing the work of the Almighty. Segregation and racial discrimination were not in keeping with our faith, so we had to do something. Something. Protest, civil disobedience, writing, legislative advocacy, and more." Even in 2016, he co-authored a 3-part comic book series titled March in an effort to reach a new generation of young people. He knew there was so much work still to be done. He said, "If you ask me whether the election of Barack Obama is the fulfillment of Dr. King's dream, I say, no, it's just a down payment. Just a down payment." The current awakening of many to the realities of systemic racism that is tightly woven into the fabric of our culture, and the words and deeds of so many, highlight the need for continued effort. Over the decades, many others have worked to make a better, more inclusive America. Voice 2, Polly Murray. Murray came of age in the 1940s, when both her race and her gender excluded her from many educational institutions. She was an incredibly bright young person. Brilliant might be an apt descriptor. She applied and was denied enrollment in several colleges. The University of North Carolina because of her race, and Harvard because at that time they did not admit women. She eventually finished law school at Howard and did additional graduate work at UC Berkeley. She was also the first African American to receive a Doctor of Jurisprudence degree from Yale. Back in 1940, she was arrested and jailed in Virginia for refusing to move to the back of a segregated bus. Sound familiar? In 1948, while working for the Methodist Church, she wrote a book titled States' Laws on Race and Color that exposed both the extent and the insanity of American segregations. The American Civil Liberties Union distributed copies to law libraries, black colleges, and human rights organizations. Thurgood Marshall, who kept stacks of it around the NAACP office, called it the Bible of Brown versus Board of Education. Due to that later court action, to Murray's immense gratification, the book ultimately helped render itself obsolete. The legal point had become moot. In the 1950s, in part because of limited employment opportunities here in America, she emigrated to Ghana. There she sought to help to shape that new nation's legal foundations. She had limited success, though, as an autocrat rose to power there for a time. In the 1960s, she served on President Kennedy's newly created Presidential Commission on the Status of Women. Murray told Betty Friedan, by then the most famous feminist in the country, that she believed the time had come to organize an NAACP for women. So, in June of 1966, during a conference on women's rights in Washington, D.C., Murray and a dozen or so others convened in Friedan's hotel room and launched the National Organization for Women. In 1971, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, in recognition of Murray's pioneering work on gender discrimination, listed her as a co-author of the brief on the landmark case Reed v. Reed. There is a bit of irony in Murray's role in creating the National Organization of Women, for she reportedly regarded herself as a mixture of genders. Maybe two got fused into one with parts of each sex, she mused at one point. Male head and brain, female-ish body, mixed emotional characteristics. More often, though, she identified as fundamentally male, and as she described herself, one of nature's experiments, a girl who should have been a boy. Biographers have suggested that her description helped her make sense of her sexual desires, which she didn't like to characterize as lesbian. Instead, she regarded her, as she described, a very natural falling in love with the female sex as a manifestation of her inner maleness. Now, this was all in a time when public acceptance of notions of gender fluidity, transgender, or transsexual or non-binary identities were still decades in the future. Murray's biographers have made the choice to use feminine pronouns when they wrote of her because that's what Murray herself used. I now follow their lead. Murray also began to describe what we have come to call intersectionality. She wrote that she hated to be fragmented into Negro at one time, woman at another, or worker at another. Polly Murray wrote not only legal analysis, but also a novel, an autobiography titled Song in a Weary Throat, An American Pilgrimage, and deeply moving poetry. Many of her poems offer a dark yet truthful account of life as a black person in 20th century America. As a white man, I find some of them hard to read. In 1959, she wrote Psalm of Deliverance, which she dedicated to the Negro school children of the South. Children of courage, we greet you. Gentle warriors, we salute you. Youthful veterans of upheaval, victims of mindless resistance, we, the wounded and dead of former campaigns, unknown, unheralded, unribboned, the nameless millions of natives and migrants, we are legion and we support you. From restless graves and swamps and bayous, from slave ships, slaves' pens, chain gangs, and prisons, from ruined churches and blazing lynch trees, from gas chambers and crematoriums, from foxholes, ghettos, detention camps, from lonely outposts of exclusions, we hear your marching feet and rise. Silently, we walk beside you. We have returned from a place beyond hope. We have returned from a wasteland of despair. We have come to claim our heritage. We have come to redeem your honor. Surely such words could also be offered to the young leaders of the Black Lives Matter actions across the country and across the globe. In the 1970s, Murray served as a tenured faculty member in the New American Studies Department at Brandeis University, a program she had helped to pioneer. It was a good job. Yet Murray resigned her post and entered New York's General Theological Seminary to become an Episcopal priest. At this time, though, the Episcopal Church did not ordain women. But as has been the case, such limitations did not stand in Polly Murray's way. While Murray was in seminary, the church's General Convention voted to ordain women. On January 8, 1977, Murray became the first African-American woman Episcopal priest. A month later, she administered her first Eucharist at a little church in North Carolina, where in the 1860s, a priest had baptized her then slave grandmother, Cornelia. Nearing the mandated Episcopal retirement age of 70, she was not called to serve a church, and rather did supply preaching for $25 a Sunday. I appreciate that when I do supply preaching, I am better compensated than Polly Murray was. In her lifetime, Polly Murray had obtained advanced degrees from four universities, had friends in the highest office in the land, and yet died in near poverty and with far too little public recognition. Murray herself felt she didn't accomplish all she might have in a more egalitarian society. If anyone should ask a Negro woman in America what has been her greatest achievement, she wrote in 1970, her answer would be, I survived. Polly Murray survived, and she made the lives of many who would follow easier and more just. The writer Kathleen Schultz, in a biographical essay in The New Yorker, suggests that perhaps in the end she was drawn to the church simply because of the claim made in Galatians, the one denied by the church and by every other community she ever found, the one she spent her whole lifetime reaffirming, that for purposes of human worth, there is neither Jew nor Greek, there is neither slave nor free, there is neither male nor female. Voice number 3, Joseph Lowry. I had the good fortune while in seminary to hear the noted civil rights activist, the Reverend Joseph Lowry. Lowry was, with Drs. King and Abernathy, a co-founder of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, a key organization in the 1960s civil rights movement. Lowry was called the dean of the civil rights movement. Many might remember Lowry as the one who offered the benediction at Barack Obama's first presidential inauguration. At a Chicago Martin Luther King celebration that I attended, Lowry shared the following story. He worked for a time in Nashville, and he decided he would seek to integrate a then segregated lunch counter near his office. He went in, sat down, and as he tells it, asked for a hamburger and a Coca-Cola. The waitress, who apparently knew who he was, said, I am sorry, Reverend, I cannot serve you. He calmly took out of his briefcase a sandwich, a thermos of milk, and he ate his lunch. He did this a number of times, each time asking to be served and each time calmly eating the food he had brought with him. Lowry then spent several months traveling away from Nashville. During that time, segregated eating establishments were ruled unconstitutional. So Lowry went back to the same lunch counter and again ordered a hamburger and a Coke. The waitress, with tears in her eyes, said, Can I please, sir, buy your lunch? You see, when you came here before, my boss had ordered me not to serve you, and Reverend, I could not. For I'm a single mother and I could not afford to lose this job, so I had to refuse to serve you. Lowry accepted her gracious offer and looking her in the eyes called out, Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are all free at last. We are free at last. For when any are oppressed, we all become bound by the chains of bias, by restrictions that limit our collective liberation. I'd like to close today with more words from John Lewis. These are from a New Yorker op-ed that he wrote shortly before his death, which he asked be published at the day of his memorial. He wrote, The truth does not change, and that is why the answers worked out long ago can help you find solutions to the challenges of our time. Continue to build union between movements stretching across the globe because we must put away our willingness to profit from the exploitations of others. Though I may not be here with you, I urge you to answer the highest callings of your heart and stand up for what you truly believe. In my life, I have done all I can to demonstrate that the way of peace, the way of love and nonviolence is the more excellent way. Now it is your turn to let freedom ring. When historians pick up their pens to write the story of the 21st century, let them say it was your generation who laid down the heavy burdens of hate at last, and that peace finally triumphed over violence, aggression, and war. So I say to you, walk with the wind, brothers and sisters, and let the spirit of peace and the power of everlasting love be your guide. May it be so.
Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us imprisoned, circle for release, circle for the planet, circle for its soul, for the children of our children. Keep the circle whole. Circle round for freedom. Circle round for peace. For all of us imprisoned. Circle for release. Circle for the planet. Circle for its soul. For the children of our children. Keep the circle whole. Circle round for freedom. Circle round for peace. For all of us imprisoned. Circle for release. Circle for the planet. Circle for its soul. For the children of our children. Keep the circle whole.
Our closing words of benediction are from Polly Murray. Hope is a crushed stalk between clenched fingers.
Hope is a bird's wing broken by a stone.
Hope is a word in a tuneless ditty,
A word whispered with the wind.
a dream of 40 acres and a mule,
A cabin of one's own and a moment to rest.
a name and a place for one's children and children's children at last.
Hope is a song in a weary throat.
Give me a song of hope and a world where I can sing it.
Give me a song of faith and a people to believe in it.
Give me a song of kindliness and a country where I can live it.
Give me a song of hope and love and a brown girl's heart to hear it.
May all our hearts hear this song. Shalom, salam, amen, and blessed be.